All right, guys, phase 2 of my Miata build is now at least started. I wouldn't say it's complete, but we have some pretty big updates. Number one, as you guys can see, these Konig Hyperspec 17x9 wheels in bronze. That 5-spoke design, that curvature as it goes in, like I think these wheels look really money. No hate on the Hyper Grams that were 17x8 that I was running before, but these are very much more the style that I like. They're wrapped in Bridgestone Potenza RE71RZ tires in a 245 section width, both front and rear. Haven't tracked on them yet, but these are of course the gold standard in terms of 200 treadwear, or super 200 treadwear tires, I should say. So very excited to see how that actually fares on track. And as you can see in the front here, we have new brakes. This is the Mazda Motorsport Brembo BBK, and prior to this, I was running the optional Brembo BBS Recaro package Brembos in the front, but I was getting tremendous brake fade even with brake scoops and running R16 brake pad compound in the front, Paragon R5. Those just aren't cut out quite for track work. These ones definitely should be. I'm not running the brake scoops anymore or any brake ducting, so we're gonna first try and see if this actually works properly. If not, I can always add some ducting, the same that the Mazda Cup cars have. But perhaps the biggest thing that I'm excited about are actually the coilovers, because now we finally have Xida coilovers from 949 Racing, aka Super Miata, and those are very much known as being the gold standard for those who want to track their Miatas, drive it hard in the canyons. Now, I went with a 12K, 6K front to rear spring rate. Prior to this, I was running Tecna with the sport spring rates of 8K, 4K front to rear. The Xidas are essentially roughly twice the price, I believe, which makes sense because they are very high quality. They have quite the reputation, and you know, we have the full travel in the rear. That's a really big part of why they handle so well. In fact, that reminds me, I've been playing with the damping recently, and my buddy Fenton from the Zygreen channel actually reviewed this car. All you gotta do is pull this back, reach your hand in, and you can quickly make some adjustments to the damping. So Fenton has actually reviewed this car on this canyon road before I have, and it looks like the damping in the rear needs to be adjusted a bit. So I just dialed it up slightly compared to when he drove it. I'm gonna have to keep dialing things in. Whenever you get new adjustable coilovers, you will have to have that initial period of figuring out how many clicks. They're both roughly front and rear in the center in terms of damping settings, but those are the main mods. One other thing, for those who are doing Brembo BBK, or any BBK really, what's unique here is that me and my buddies, we actually installed the Brembo BBK ourselves and the coilovers, and then we had this terrible grinding. I took it to TrackSpec Autosports in Fremont. These guys are true pros. They pointed out, hey, you're getting some metal on metal grinding on the inside of your passenger front rotor. What's going on here? And turns out that because we didn't retain the brake dust shield, the entire rotor set in by like 1 millimeter too close inboard, and to push it outboard, we had to add that dust shield back on. It was a whole troubleshooting thing. I talk about the whole story and the trials and tribulations, lessons learned, etc. in the new members only live streams that I've been doing. Things that aren't going to perform well on the algorithm. You can see me much more unfiltered and just talking shop there. But we also have 3.5 degrees of negative camber in the front. We had to dial back the caster. So caster is essentially the axis of steering. So additional caster gives you more steering feel, heavier steering feel as well. And I was running about 7.5 to 8 before. Now, because of clearance issues with these wider tires, when you actually have more caster and you turn, the tire gets pushed forward more. So then to not rub into the back end of the headlights here, we had to reduce the caster to roughly 5.5 degrees. That will reduce the steering feel and feedback. Also, wider section width tires in the front also impact steering feel in a negative way. Really like the look of these new wheels though, man. Really digging it. Front end is already so much more immediate. I haven't added front sway bars yet. Now I will. I explained in prior videos why I didn't want to add sway bars prematurely until I got the suspension really dialed in. But now, on these higher spring rate, higher quality dampers, I am ready for front sway bars. And then depending on how the car feels in terms of its balance, understeer, oversteer, I will then consider adding rear sway bars if needed. They may not even be necessary, honestly, depending on what I end up running in the front. The damping quality is so much improved. Now keep in mind, 12K, 6K is quite a step up. We're now getting into proper track build territory. So are you gonna feel a difference in ride comfort? Yes, of course, but I think people tend to overemphasize the importance of spring rates and underemphasize the importance of damping quality. So when you actually have good damping quality, even with higher spring rates, the ride isn't terribly punishing. Now, this is a very bumpy road, keep that in mind. That's why I like testing cars here, because it really uncovers any issues in suspension. But in terms of the ride comfort between these and the Tecnas didn't have quite as good damping quality. They're still great coilovers, especially at the price point. But the damping quality here is significantly better. So even though the spring rate is 50% higher, again, 12.6 versus 8.4, may need to increase the damping slightly in the rear, especially right over that big bump. Yeah, but even though the spring rate is higher, the change in the ride quality and like the harshness that you feel is actually a lot less than you would expect. Oh yeah, just trailed that in. The rear end wants to come out. I am so excited to track this car. You guys can watch some of my recent videos of my PBs. I think it was 145.5 at Laguna Seca, 152.8 at Sonoma, and Thunderhill was like a 2.0, I think it was a 2.07.2 if I recall correctly. And I'm now hoping for sub 150 at Sonoma with this new setup, and we'll see how much time I can shave off at Laguna and Thunderhill as well. Here's the other thing, the steering. You know, there are a lot of people out there that say the ND2 versus ND3 steering is no different. It just comes down to caster, and if you add caster to the ND2, you essentially just get the ND3 steering. But I would strongly disagree. Now, the steering here is substantially lighter than I would like because we had to reduce the caster by so much because of fitment issues. But even at this 5.5, I'm getting a good amount of feedback. Is it as much as before? No, but this is definitely still notably better steering than ND2 Miatas. Now, again, keep in mind, everyone has different sensitivities and preferences, so if you don't care as much about steering, you may not notice a difference. But if you do care a lot about steering, then I would be surprised if you did not notice a difference between the ND2 and ND3 steering. And even with the mods here, the tires, I mean, the RE71 RZs have really stiff sidewalls, which helps with steering feel, but then 245 is a very wide section width, which reduces steering feel, and then caster being dialed back to 5.5 again reduces steering feel. But this still is notably better than any of the ND2s that I've driven. And if you guys haven't already, you should check out the Miata review of 949 Racing's Huevo, because that car I still think is peak Miata. There are many things done to that car that I have not yet done here, but the whole idea here is for you all, the viewers. I'm going to slowly build and add things to the car so you can better understand how each mod changes the driving behavior, what's worth it, what's not. And Huevo, that orange ND Miata, was so good that it's now like, in some ways, the benchmark that I want to approximate. The steering in this car is obviously, I don't think I can do all the mods there, in part because the ECU is not cracked here, and as a result, can't do the same tune, raise the red line and such. With the BBK, the brakes have a little bit more firmness to the pedal feel, but honestly not as much as I was hoping for, because even the factory Brembo BBS Recaro brakes, they are quite soft actually and not great to use. This one is an improvement, but not as big of an improvement in terms of that immediacy and firmness of the pedal that I was hoping for, but definitely an upgrade compared to the factory kit. Now, because this road is so bumpy and because the suspension is much stiffer now, I am noticing some of the chassis flex, and I've commented on this previously, which is that the ND Miata, especially with the soft top, not the RF with the top up, it's not the stiffest chassis. You can feel that they were optimizing more for lightweight versus chassis rigidity. So I will be adding some mods here to improve the chassis rigidity, because now I notice more of a gap there that I want to address. That being said, I'm not sure how much the aftermarket can actually support with that. I do have a roll bar already, which helps somewhat, and I'm not going to do a whole cage, obviously, although that would improve it a lot. So we'll do like underbody bracing and some other things to see if those marginal improvements are notable and worthwhile. And I'll keep you guys updated. So if you want to see that, make sure you are subscribed. And the other piece of news for the channel, I'm covering this in another video, the whole finances of the actual channel. I talk about how I've made around $60,000 in revenue from the channel, but just in terms of paying my team, I've spent $151,000. That's before any of the car modifications, any of my travel. You know, I do reviews all over the US. So one way I'm trying to make this sustainable and pour more money into the business is by actually trying to increase the monetization. So I'm not taking anything away. As you guys can probably see this year, actually recently, about a month ago, I started doing 4 full-length YouTube videos per week, which I could never have done previously because we didn't have enough revenue to support the team. And you know, even though I'm bankrolling, I can only bankroll so much per month, right? So the idea is that by adding memberships, we're adding more for those who are interested. Again, we're taking away nothing, but for those who want early access to upcoming videos, and for those who want to see some live streams and interact with me more behind the scenes, you can add that, and it's a way for you to support the channel. I would be very appreciative, but no pressure. And again, not taking anything away. Still doing the 4 videos per week, doing the shorts, doing the Instagram, doing all the things. But back to this phase 2 of the build, I'm pretty excited. This was the phase of the build that I have been most excited about. Quality coilovers, wider section with tires, BBK, because I would say the 2 biggest issues I had previously, number 1 was the brake fade. This should be a huge step in the right direction because now we have larger brakes to act as a heat sink, to not overheat. And then secondly, the suspension. You know, when I was on track, it was definitely softer than ideal for track work. Now we're getting into a really good range where the car is still very much streetable, but now it is more optimized for track. You can go higher on spring rates if you want to really make this #race car. But very excited for this next phase. So stay tuned, more videos coming out this year. Subscribe if you haven't already. Much love, and I'll see you in that next one.